Shake the room.
Hello everyone, this is the Lefficate here with Super, and today we're gonna read some more creepypasta stories.
Today, you will discover what happens when two people read a creepypasta. We might shit our pants.
Yep, you will. And then I'm gonna start reading first.
Alright,
Abandoned
go.
by Disney. Some of you may have heard of that the Disney Corporation is responsible for the least one real-live ghost town. Disney built the Treasure Island resort in Baker Bay in the Bahamas. It didn't start as a ghost town. Disney cruise ship would actually stop the resort and leave tourists there to relax in luxury. There, in fact, look it up. Disney blew $30 million on the plate. Yes, $30 million. They abandoned it.
Disney blamed the shallow waters, too shallow for the ships to safely operate, and there was even blame cast on the workers, saying that since they were from the Bahamas, they were too lazy to work a regular schedule. That is where the factual nature of their story ends. It was because of sand. It wasn't because of sand. It obviously wasn't because foreigners are lazy. Both are convenient excuses. No, I sincerely doubt those reasons were legitimate. Why don't I buy the official story? Because of Mowgli's place. If you're unfamiliar with the characters of Mowgli, then you might better remember the story, The Jungle Book. If you haven't seen it anywhere else, you know it as the Disney cartoon of decades past. Near the beachside, city of Emerald Isle in North Carolina, Disney began construction of Mowgli's Palace in the late 1990s. The concept was a jungle-themed resort with a large, you guessed it, palace in the center of the whole thing. Mowgli was an abandoned child in the jungle, essentially raised by the animals and simultaneously threatened or pursued by other animals.
Mowgli's Palace was a commercial undertaking from the start. Disney bought up a ton high-priced land for the project. There was actually a scandal surrounding the purchase. The local government claimed eminent domain on people's home and turned home around and sold the property to Disney. At one point, a home that just had been constructed was immediately commended with little to no expectation. The land grabbed by the government was supposedly for some fictional highway project, knowing the full wheel that was going on. People started calling it Mickey Mouse Highway. There was the concept art. A group of stuffed shirt from Disney could actually held a city meeting. They intended to sell everyone on how illustrated this project was going to be for everyone. Where they show the concept art, this gigantic Indian palace surrounded by jungle, staffed with men and women in looking clothes and tribal gear, and will surface to say everyone flip their shit. What the? I thought there were no swearing in this.
Anyway, we're talking about a large Indian palace, jungle, and loincloths, not only in the center of a relatively wealthy area, but also a somewhat xenophobic area of the southern USA. It was questionable mixed of the point in history. One member of the crowd tried to storm the stage, but he was quickly subdued by security after he managed to break one of the presentation boards over his knees. Disney took the community and essentially broke it over its knees as well. The houses were razed. The land was cleared, and there wasn't a damn thing anyone could do or say about it. The local TV and newspapers were against the resort at the beginning, but some insane connection between Disney's media holdings and the local venues came into play, and their opinions turned on a dime. So anyway, Treasure Island, the Bahamas. Disney sunk those millions in, and then split. The same thing happened to Mowgli's Palace. Construction was complete. The visitors actually stayed at the resort. The surrounding communities was flooded with traffic and usual annoyances associated with the influx or lost or irritated tourists. Then it just all stopped.
Disney shut it down and nobody knew what the hell to think, but they were pretty happy about it. Disney Lost was pretty hilarious and wonderful to a large group of folk who didn't want this in the first place. I honestly didn't give the place another thought since hearing it closed over a decade ago. I live maybe 4 hours from Emerald Hills, so really I only heard the rumbling and didn't experience any of the first hand.
Then I read this article from someone who had explored the Treasure Island Resort and posted a whole blog about all this crazy shit he found here.
And no swearing.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter, it's in the
Just
story.
left behind. Ink smash. The face, probably ruined by this crowd former employees who had just lost their jobs. Hell, the locals from all around probably had a hand in wrecking that place. People there just felt as angry about Treasure Island as folks here did about Mowgli's Palace. Plus, there are rumors that Disney had released their aquarium stock into the local waters when they closed, including sharks. Who wouldn't want to take a few swings at some merchandise after that? Well, what I'm getting at this is that this blog about Treasure Island got me thinking. Even though many years have passed since its closing, I figured it might be cool to do some urban exploration at Mowgli's Palace. Take some photos, write about my experience, and probably say if there was anything I could take home as a memento.
I'm not going to say I wasted no time getting here, because honestly it took me another year after I first found that Treasure Island article to get around is going to Emerald Isles. Over the course of that year, I did a lot of research on the palace resort, or rather, I tried to. Naturally, no official Disney site or resource made by mention of this place. This had been scrubbed clean. Even older, however, was that nobody before myself had apparently thought the blog or the place or even post a photo on none of the local TV or newspaper site had one word about the place. Even though that was to be expected since they all have swung Disney way, they wouldn't be out there letting their embarrassment, Recently, I learned that corporation can actually ask Google, for example, to remove link from search result basically for no good reason. Looking back, it's probably not that nobody spoke of the resort, but rather their word were made inaccessible. So in the end, I could barely find the place. All I had to go on was an old as hell map I read it in the mail back in the 90s. It was a promotional item that sent out to the people who had recently been to Disney World, and I guess since I have been there in the late 1880s, that was rinsing. Sorry, I know. Okay, recent. Okay, yeah, that word. I didn't really intend to hang on to it. It just shoved in with my book and comment from my childhood. I only remember it months into my research, even though it took me another few weeks to locate the storage bin my parents have shoved it all into. But I did find a logo worth no help, as most were transplant who has moved to the beach in recent year or old resident who just sneered at me and made me rue glister the second I meant to say, where would I find Mugging? Alright.
Alright. The drive took me through an inordinately long corridor of overgrowth. Tropical plants that had run rampant and overpopulated the area, mixed with the native species of flora that actually belonged there and had tried to reclaim the land. I was in awe when I reached the front gates of the resort. Tremendous, monolithic wooden gates whose supports to either side looked like they must have been cut with giant sequoias?
I guess so.
I don't know what that's. The gate itself had been gouged in several places by woodpeckers and eaten away by the base of burrowing insects. Hanging on the gate was a sheet of metal, some random scrap, with hand-painted letters scrawled in black. Abandoned by Disney. Clearly the handiwork of some past local or an employee who wanted to make some small protest. The gates were open enough to walk through, but no drive. So grabbing my digital camera and the map whose flip side showed a layout of the resort, I set off on foot. The inner grounds of the place were just as overgrown as the entryway. Palm trees stood and untended and rag among piles of their own coconuts. Banana plants similarly stood in their own stinking, bug-riddled refuse. There was a short sort of clash between order and chaos. As carefully planted rows of perennial flowers mixed with obnoxious tall weeds and sneaking blackened mushrooms. All that remained of any outdoor structures were broken. Rotting wood and various charred bits of unidentifiable material, what was most likely an information booth or an outdoor bar, was simply a pile of assorted debris chopped up by past vandalism and ravaged by weather. The most interesting thing on the ground was a statue of Baloo, the friendly bear from the Jungle Book, which stood in a sort of courtyard in front of the main building. He was frozen in a jovial wave toward no one, staring in empty space with a silly, toothy grin as bird shit covered holes slowly whispered. Vines ensnared his platform. I approached the main building, the palace, only to find the outside of the building covered in graffiti where the original paint hadn't peeled and chipped away. The front doors weren't just open. They had been taken off their hinges and they were stolen. Above the front doors, or the gaping maw where they had been, someone had once again painted, abandoned by Disney.
I wish I could tell you about all the awesome stuff I saw inside the palace. Forgotten statue, abandoned crash, register, a full fridge, secret society of homeless burn, but no. The inside of the building was so stark, so bare that I actually think people have stolen the molding off the wall. Anything that was too big for steel, counter, desk, giant fake tree, they were all resting. Amen. This empty echo chamber that amplified my every step like a slow rap tat a machine gun. Oh yeah. I checked the floor plan and handed to all the locations that might see in any way interesting. The kitchen was as you imagine an industrial boo prep area with all the eggplant and a space no spared or whatever. Okay, no expense spared. Every glass surfing was broken, every door knocked off its hicks, every metal surface kicked and dented. The entire place smelled like very old piss. Gross.
Nice. The huge freezer, not even remotely cooled down, had row upon row of empty shelf space. Hooks hung from the ceiling, probably for hanging cuts of meat. As I stood inside it for a moment, I noticed that they were swinging. Each hook swung in a random direction, but their movements were so slow and small that it was almost impossible to see. I figured it had been caused by my footsteps, so I stopped one by swinging it by clutching it in my fist, then carefully letting go. But within seconds, it started swinging once more. The bathrooms were in much the same state as the rest of the palace, or the rest of the place, just like the Treasure Island Resort. Someone had methodically smashed each porcelain commode with coconuts or other implements. There was about a half-inch of rancid, stinking, stagnant water on the floor, so I didn't stay very long. What's odd is the toilets and the sinks and the bidets in the ladies' room. Yes, I went there. All dripped, leaked, or just ran freely. It seemed to me that they should have shut the water off long ago. There were plenty of rooms in the resort, but naturally I didn't have time to look through them all. A few I did peer into were similarly wrecked. I didn't expect to find anything there. I thought there was actually television or radio in one room, as I really think I heard a quiet conversation coming out.
That's so creepy.
Though, though I thought it was like a whisper, probably my own breathing, echoing in silence, or just another case of the sound of flowing water playing tricks on my mind. This is what it sounded like. I didn't believe it.
Short
Short
unknown.
unknown.
Oh my god, you suck.
Short unknown reply.
I didn't know that. I don't know that.
Your father told you?
Unknown reply, or possibly just weeping.
I know. This sounds ridiculous. I'm just telling you what I experienced. Why I thought that there might have been something running in that room. Or worse, some vagrants who had holed up there and probably would have knifed me. At the front doors of the palace again, I figured I hadn't found anything of note and had wasted the trip up. As I looked out the door, I noticed something interesting in the courtyard I had apparently missed. Something that would have given me one thing for the show for all of my trouble, even if it was just a photograph. There was a lifelike statue of a python, maybe 80 feet long, coiled up and sunning itself in a pedestal right in the center of the area. It was almost for the sun to start setting. It was almost time for the sun to start setting, so the light fell into the object in a perfect way for a photograph. I approached the python and snapped a photo. Then I stood on my toes and snapped another. I moved forward closer again to get the detail of its face. Slowly, casually, the python lifted its head, looked directly into my eyes, turned, and slithered off the pedestal, across the grass and into the trees. All 80 feet of it. Its head long disappeared in the woods before its tail even left the stunning spot.
Wow.
Disney had released all their exotic animals onto the grounds. Right on there on my floor-plan map was a reptile house. I should have known. I read about the sharks in the treasure isle, and I should have known they had done this.
I was dumbfounded, just entirely stupefying. My mouth must have been hanging open for the longest time before I came back down to earth and snap it shut. I blinked futile and back away from where the snake had been, back toward the palace. Even though it was totally gone, I still wasn't taking any chances back my way into the building. It took a few deep breaths and slap to my own face to get myself right in the head again after that. I looked for a place to sit down, as my legs were feeling a bit like jelly at this point. Of course, there was no place to sit down unless I want to rely in the broken glass and dead leaf carpet or haul myself up to the desk of questionably reliability. I had been some staring at the palace lobby and decided to go and have a seat until I felt better. The staircase was far enough away from the front of the building, was relatively clean save for the starting accumulation of dust. I pulled a wedge of metal off the wall once again, painted with the abandoned by Disney motto. I began accumulating to I kind of lost my word there. Okay, I don't know. Okay.
Wait, okay,
I lost my place. Okay.
I placed the wedge on the stairs and sat on it. The keep at last was somewhat clean. The stairway led down, below the ground level. Using my camera flash as a sort of improvised flashlight, I could see the staircase ended up in the metal mesh door with a padlock. A sign on the door says, a real sign. Read, mascots only, thank you. This perked up my spirits a little bit, for two reasons. One, a mascot-only area would have definitely had some interesting stuff back in the day. Two, the padlock was still in place. Nobody had gone down there. Not vandals, not looters, nobody. This was the one place I could actually explore and perhaps find something interesting to photograph or want to only steal. I had come to the palace, essentially agreeing with myself that this was okay to take anything I wanted because, hey, abandoned. It didn't take much to bust the lock. Well, actually, that's wrong. It didn't take much to bust the metal plate on the wall that the padlock was hooked up to. Time and decay had done most of the work for me. I was able to bend the metal plate enough to pull the screws out of the wall. Something nobody else had apparently thought of, or hadn't been able to do at the time. Mascot's whole arena was a startling and very welcome change from the rest of the building I'd seen. For one, every second or third fluorescent light overhead was illuminated, even though they flickered and faded randomly. Also, nothing had been stolen or broken, even if age and exposure was definitely taking their toll. Tables had notepads and pens, and there were clocks. Even a punch-in clock on the wall, complete with filled-out time cards. Chairs were scattered around, and there was even the small break room with an old static-filled television. The long run-out food and drink on the counters. It was like one of those post-apocalypse movies where everything is left in a state of evacuation.
As I walk the maze-like sub-basement hallway that Masco only aired, the sight just become more and more interesting. As I went farther, desks and tables were knocked over, paper scattered and almost melted with the damp floor, and a large carpet of mold was slowly overtaking the real rotting crimson floor covering. Everything was just sort of squishy, everything would disintegrated into a mush when I apply even the least amount of force for any closing item hanging on hook in one of the rooms simply fell on the moist thread if I tried to unhook them. One thing that annoyed me was that the light was becoming more spaces and unreliable as I went further into the dank, suffocating depth of the place. Eventually, I reached a black and yellow strip door with word character prep 1 Stanley on it.
The door wouldn't open at first. I figured that this was probably where the costumes were kept, and I definitely wanted a photograph of that twisted, stinking mess. Try as I might, whatever angle or trick I tried, the door wouldn't budge. This is until I gave up and started walking away. That was when there was a slight popping sound, and the door creaked open slowly. Inside, the room was completely dark, pitch black. I used the camera flash to look for a light switch in the wall by the door. There was nothing. As I made my search, I was jarred out of my sense of excitement by a loud electrical buzz. Row of lights overhead suddenly flashed to life, flickering and fading in and out like the rest had passed. It took a second for my eyes to adjust. It seemed like the light was going to keep getting brighter until the bulbs exploded. But just when I thought it would reach the critical stage, the lights dimmed and bit and steadied. The room was exactly as I pictured it. Various Disney costumes hung on the walls, fully put together like strange cartoon cadavers hung from invisible nooses. There was an entire rack of loincloths and native clothes on hangers towards the back. What I found odd, and what I wanted to photograph right away, was the Mickey Mouse costume at the center of the room. Unlike the other costumes, it was lying on its back in the center of the floor like a murderer victim. The fur of the costume was brown and shedding, creating bare patches. What was even odder, however, was the coloring of the costume. It was a photo negative of the actual Mickey Mouse. Black where it should be white, and white where it should be black. Normally red overalls were light blue. The site was off-putting enough that I actually put a photograph of that thing until last. I took a picture of the costumes hanging on the wall, upward angles, downward angles, side shots, showing an entire row of frozen, putrid, cartoon faces, some with plastic eyes missing. Then I decided to stage a single shot, just one of the bedraggled character heads on the slick, grimy floor. I reached for a headpiece of Donald Duck costume and carefully removed it so the thing wouldn't fall apart in my hands. As I look into the face of the wide-eyed, moldering head, a loud chattering sound made me jump with fright. I looked down at my feet. Between my shoes was a human skull. It had fallen out of the mascot head and shattered into pieces at my feet. Only the empty face lower jaw remained, staring up at me. I dropped the Donald Duck head immediately. As you expect, I moved to the door. As I stood in the doorway, I looked back at the skull on the floor. I took a picture of it. You know, I had to, for any number of reasons that may seem silly, but only if you think it through. I need proof of what happened, especially if Disney was going to somehow make this go away. I had no possible doubt in my mind, right from the start, that even if it was just gross negligence, Disney was responsible for this. That's when Mickey Mouse, the fallen negative opposite of Mickey, in the middle of the floor, started getting up. First sitting up, then climbing to its feet. The Mickey Mouse costume, or whoever was inside of it, stood there in the center of the room. Its fake face was staring directly at me as I mumbled.
No, over and over and over, with shaking hand, and finally, stretching her and lay the hat once again turned to jelly, I mentioned to lift the camera and aim at it in the opposite creature now quality size me the digital camera screen display only data pistol in the shape of the thing. It was a perfect shell key of the Mickey costume. As the camera moved in my unsteady hand, the dead pistol spread, smearing the screen whatever Mickey outline moved to. Then the character died, went black and quiet and broken. I raised my eye once again to the Mickey Mouse costume. Hey, it said, hey, hussing, perverted or pervert or like pervert. Oh, I like pervert. What the fuck? Pervert. Perfectly executed Mickey Mouse voice. Want to see my hand? Come off. Okay. Oh my. It started to pull out at a old hand, working a clumsy, glove-clad figure around a neck and clawing, impatient movement similar to a wooden man trying to pull himself free of a predator jaw. As it worked, it digit into its neck. So much blood, so much thick, chunky, yellow blood. I turned away as I heard a sickening tear, close and fresh. The only care about getting away above the door of this room. I saw the final message across the metal with bone or fingernail.
I got this one. Abandoned by God. I never got the pictures out of my camera. I never wrote a blog entry about it. After I ran from the place, I fled for my sanity, if not my very life. I knew why Disney didn't want anyone to know about this place. They didn't want anyone like me getting in. They didn't want anything like that getting out.
Wow. Interesting story, man. That made me fire up. That's a good creepypasta story I have read so far.
And now, it's time for
the next creepypasta, the sequel.
A follow-up to Abandoned by Disney.
Yes.
They have, there's posts on this, so we can read each post, I guess.
Alright.
I'll read the first post. Hello guys, it's Derek here from Super Delphi DOA Games. I'm here joined with the Luffy Kid. We're gonna read another creepypasta. This is a follow-up from Abandoned by Disney. It's one of my favorite creepypastas of all time. It's called A Tape from Treasure Island. And there's posts in this, so we're gonna read different posts. So sit back and enjoy A Tape from Treasure Island. Host number 1. Hello all. Today I went on an interesting trip. It took me a while to save up for the plane tickets, but it was worth it. Before I get into much detail, I should have introduced myself. Well, not really. I'm very paranoid when it comes to the internet, and I won't disclose my real name, so I'll just call me Delmar. I don't know what it is about that name, but I've taken a liking to it recently. Okay, let's get down to business. I recently got plane tickets to Florida and booked to stay at a small hotel near a special location. It was worth a 6-hour plane flight for where I was going to. If you haven't noticed, you haven't heard of it, I was planning to visit an abandoned Disney resort called Discovery Island, or Treasure Island. I did my research, and it was originally known as Treasure Island in the early 70s. The mystery behind the island is very intriguing to me, because it was shut down suddenly in 1999. There was a whole lot of controversy behind the island, and it's commonly accepted that it was the reason behind the island's abandonment. I didn't necessarily accept that as easily as others might. Don't get me wrong, I do believe it, but solely because of the fact there isn't enough information on the subject to prove this theory doesn't settle quite right with me. There isn't any public transportation to the island, so I had to call my buddy to drop me off on the island. It has been about a day since my arrival to Florida, and I've got all my gear ready. I brought a notebook for quick notes, a laptop for typing down documents, a vintage map of the island, which I discovered on the internet, a GPS, and a geocache. If I was going to an abandoned Disney park, I was going to hide the geocache there. I was going to bring a camera, but I had spent all my money on the plane tickets too, and the hotel reservation. I hung onto his boat, and we were off. The warm Florida air swerved past my temple and into the roots of my hair, relaxing me. This all went away as soon as the island entered my line of sight. I can't explain it. It was a strange mixture of happiness, excitement, and dread. I couldn't explain to you why I felt dread, but I did. I also noticed the air got thicker as we reached the island. I told myself it would be humidity, but in hindsight, that wouldn't really make much sense. The charge was too quick. It wasn't gradual enough to be natural. Ignoring it, my buddy pressed on towards the island. Strange. He didn't seem to comment on the things I noticed. We arrived on the island, finally. After all the research, I was finally able to expose the world what really happened to the mysterious island. Well, if I find anything to expose, that is. Anything to expose, that is. After stepping off to his boat, I felt a sense of satisfaction. All of my hard work has led up to this. I waved goodbye to my friend as he left me to his own devices. I looked around for any landmarks. After finding one, I figured out where I was on the map and heading off to where I thought the most plausible places to find information are. The first place I had in mind was the information booth. By the looks of the entrance, this definitely was a Disney park. It was very well crafted and detailed. Most of the display looked sun damaged and a bit cracked, so some of you could say looked sandblasted. Well, I guess the years of wear and tear from the unforgiving Florida weather looks its toll. I continued until I reached what looked like an information booth. The sign was faded and the painting was chipping. It was hanging by a nail and obscured my view inside. I slid it out of the way. Inside was a perfectly normal information booth. As expected, there was an eggshell white desk with assorted tickets on it. It even had some pamphlets mixed in. Taking the liberty of grabbing one of the pamphlets, I ran over to the nearest bench and laid it out, also faded and water damage. Deciphered as much of the text as I could, typed it into a Word document. I noticed something funny though. I had an internet connection. This place was closed in the 90s. Why would there be free Wi-Fi here? Even I could explain why there was Wi-Fi. Why did I connect without my knowledge? I didn't have auto connect or anything on or anything. I checked the router name and the IP. The router name was Radio Nick. It didn't display as an IP. It seemed to work fine. My internet browser was functioning perfectly. I shrugged it off and decided to take this opportunity to do a little more research. Didn't find anything that didn't already know. I continued to copy down the contents of the pamphlet. Bitching, I packed up my laptop and continued my journey. It was starting to get dark, which was strange. It was only two according to my laptop. I called my buddy and he came to pick me up. I asked him what time it usually got dark in Florida. He told me around this time of year, which was June, by the way. The sun set roughly around 8:30. Perplexed, I opened it on my laptop and see it was actually 8:30. It literally said 2 o'clock 10 minutes ago. Don't freak yourself out, I told myself. It was probably just the sketchy router you're connected to that messed up your time here. Probably was set to the wrong time zone or something. We arrived at shore, and I took my rental car to the hotel. After typing this up, it's really put into perspective how weird it really was. I'll pick up on the exploration tomorrow. I have about 4 more days on my reservation, and I'm planning to make the best of it.
The island is hiding something big. I cannot explain the logical expectation of what I witnessed today. I feel impaired. The only thing that what comes to mind when describe what I feel, something unholy that had to happen to on that line. And I feel it's my duty to find out. Okay, before I get into what happened, let me level with you for a second. Here, the information I got to remember in the last post when I told you to call me Demar. You thought I was a completely random name, and honestly, I thought so too. Remember the name that mystery Wi-Fi center was getting. It was real, Nick. Those who named or linked, I dug a little deeper into the story of the island, and I found out the original owner of the island, who man by the name of Timar Nixon. His nickname was Radio Nick. I couldn't find any record on him, and I did get some information after interview some local. They say he was a rescue type. He seemed to have a dark cloud hovering over him at all time. He was an anti-social and didn't talk to anybody. I have seen and heard some claim that he was, get this, a freaking senatic. Or you mean a loser? I don't know. Okay, that's a comforting through a wild roaming island previously owned by a freaking senator. But I have heard other claim that he was a Wilkin. Other people say he was a combination of both, or as described, it, a Wilkin that believed in the power of Satan. Just because in my mind, when you're reading what happened to me, I have just arrived on this island. You could say I was a little uneasy, kind of on edge, armed with the new information. I still got the same feeling I dreaded the thing before. Only this time, I felt sadder than anything. I still entered the park determined to find out the whole Radio Nick thing. I planned my route the night before. My first was on the Explorer outpost. Judging by the name, it was some sort of employee area. I couldn't find any info on it. I trust my gut. I headed the dot and took a left. There was a building of a thatched roof that has splintered from storm, including the closing wall made out of various wooden stick, most of them snapped in half. A small stood a high for explorer outpost. I think I'm in the right place. Before proceeding inside, I looked up and remembered the position of the sun. I walked through the what was left of the decorating right front of the tropical room. It had an information desk and some benches. All the ropes used from lines had fallen over, and the doors leading to behind the desk were blown apart. Most of the room, and something forced its way into the back. I proceeded with calculation into the back room. There was a room with a bunch of filing cabinets inside, most of them hanging open, and half of the fire were in the door. The corner in the particular was very dark, almost unnaturally dark, but sometimes about it made me freeze. Sometimes I turned its head around and I reflected the light coming in the room. The eye lunged at me. The light revealed it was vulture. It stopped toward my face instead of attacking me. It hovered back, waving its wings at me as if shooting me away. I fell my back and vulture landed on the ground below it. Bowed its head at me. My heart was racing at a mile a minute, but that gesture made me feel safe. It looked at me and pointed a bright beak toward a cabinet. It tapped it beak on the face of the cabinet. It real is SD. Okay. Alright, I open up the cabinet as the vulture to watch only about 5 photos are present. I teach them the vulture wave in wings. Only you got my attention. It tapped it breaks on another cab. It was the employee record. I take them as well to my surprise. I turned around for more instruction, and the vulture was gone. I didn't hear it fly away or anything. It was just gone. I wouldn't say I flew the island. I basically walked into a palace that you could compare to running in fear. I sat at the door waiting for my buddy to come and pick me up. When he arrived, I was so relieved, but as soon as I stepped onto the boat, this overwhelming feeling of fear, dread overcame me, and I felt really dizzy. I fell over into my buddy's arm and he drove me home. He's a good friend. I took it easy from there. I still feel really uneasy and sad about, well, I don't know. I feel constricted for some reason and there is something looming over me, something I couldn't control. Well, despite my mental condition, I still looking into what happened to this island. I should probably start looking through those papers and see you all soon.
Guys, this is going to be a short, very short post. But this is the information I got. It perfectly correlates with what happened yesterday. I was looking through some of those appointed records. My suspicions have been confirmed. That Radio Nick guy was a huge Satanist. The employee summary said after the island was sold to Disney corporations, Radio Nick, we call him Nicholson, applied as an employee after the island construction was completed. They assume it was because he couldn't bear to leave his beloved island. In the first couple of years, he acted normally, but his later years, just before the closing, other employees noticed a change in his behavior. Every day at clockwork, he walked into the jungle by the South American aviary section, not to be seen for a couple of hours. His suspicions continually told him that his behavior affected his workflow. This eventually led to his termination. Interestingly enough, the employee summary just abruptly ends here. But handwritten after the end of the summary was some Russian text. It took me half an hour to decipher the individual symbols. I finally translated to the word Lucifer's foul game. This astonished me and it left me a bit confused. I analyzed what it could mean, and I've come to the conclusion that the whole thing has to do with the birds. The vultures were the key. I've read up that in some cultures the vulture was considered a symbol of good. It makes me think that these vultures were trying to protect me from something, as well as exposing the truth. As I also have read that there was a controversy connected to the vultures that took the place when the park was still active. Disney employees were killing vultures because they said they were endangering the aviary of life in the island. I think the vultures were trying to get rid of the birds because they're connected to something evil, or someone by the name of Radio Nick. That's all I've got so far in terms of theories. So if you have any critic to my theory or any information that could hold up, please don't hesitate to contact me. I should also note that I used all my food money to buy a digital camera. Nothing fancy. It was actually quite cheap. I'll be sending pictures if I can. I'll be leaving the island soon. Wish me luck.
Wow, that's getting interesting. Okay, post number 4. Hey guys, this is a quote unquote Demart friend. I'm the only one who been boating him back and forth from the island. I have some weird news from you guys. The Demart is currently incapacitated.
Incapacitated.
Yeah, and incapable of getting a pose out. He's out cold on his hotel bed right now. And he been trying right night terrors. Yeah, I'm worried about what he been doing out on that island. All I really know is that he been getting tenser every time I take him there. And the most recent ride I gave him, he tried to pass off one of those dollar store disposable digital camera as something to use on a vacation. I let him borrow my camera, and he gracefully accepted after leaving. I was only in my house for 15 minutes before receiving a text from the text say, "Come now," and I raced to my car. When I arrived at this island, I found him face down, out like a light on the ground. After falling to wake him up, I just carried him on the boat and brought him to the hospital. The doctor said he was okay at first. They thought he would knock out with consciousness.
Consciousness.
Yeah, damn it. Alright. But it's claimed that he found nothing wrong. They just prescribed from restaurant. They just that. I know that blog is important, so I thought it would be right if I posted something when he's unavailable. Just want to update for you two who follows this blog. He should be away by tomorrow.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm never setting foot on that island again. I just got home from Florida. I waited a while before typing this post. For the sake of my sanity, let me just explain what happened. I woke up. I don't remember anything. My buddy was there. He explained what he saw happen. We talked for a while before he left because he had errands to run. I got my comfy in my bed, turned on the TV. The TV illuminated the room, and I noticed the camera that my buddy let me borrow. Crap, he forgot it. I get out of my bed and pick it up. I turn on to see if I should charge a battery. It's common curiosity. It was then I noticed that there was only a couple of minutes left on tape. He gave me a blank tape with about 2 hours of footage on it. That means I recorded something. That's possible, though. I had only been on the island for half an hour. A morbid curiosity overcame me. I decided to plug it in and watch. It started out with me waving goodbye to my buddy. I began my hike through the island. The video cut to me at every section of the island. Keep in mind that I don't remember any of this. I was looking around for anything that might answer some questions. I headed for the maintenance area behind the birds exhibits. I closed the door behind me, being the genius I am. It was somewhat dark in there. Light enough so you can see, but dark enough to make you feel uncomfortable. It was a room full of bags of bird seeds. Some ripped open, some spilled on the floor. There was a bucket in the corner from what I could see and some scrapers next to it. I could only guess what's that for. I continue on into the dim room. When I find a room with a bunch of pedestals scattered on the floor, it seemed like they were ripped off of something and hastily thrown into the back room. I put the camera on the nearby AC unit, and I watched myself pick up one of them. I looked surprised and a bit scared. I showed the camera the face of the pedestal. It was one of those information pedestals that taught you about the birds it was showcasing. It had an upside-down pentagram burned onto it. I paused the tape to clear my head. After I continued, brace for the worst. I picked out another one and showed this one up to the camera. The upside-down cross that appears to be a crude Mickey Mouse nailed to it. I put it down slowly, but a bang made me freeze. I stood there for about 10 seconds before something made me grab the camera and run. The video cut to me walking around outside. It was dark out now. Using a flashlight to lead the way, I briskly walked through the park. It was eerily quiet. The only sounds I could hear were heavy breathing and quiet footsteps. This continued for about 10 minutes. The video cut again. This time, I was in what appeared to be a bathroom. I was kneeling on the ground, facing the side of the stall. I was leaning on it as I was being deprived of strength. I turned around towards the camera and started to softly sob. I was feeling uneasy watching this as I don't normally cry. After a bit of sobbing, a voice from the distance, it sounded female. She simply said stop in a firm voice. I did as she commanded. I I hesitated for a bit, but without warning, I punched a hole through the wall. I punched a hole through the hard plastic stall wall, and began to scream before the video cut to a new scene. This time, I was in a security room. All the TVs were functioning perfectly. They were all displaying different parts of the island. People were hustling and bustling about the exhibits and displays. The camera zoomed in and they displayed the quarter. It was all I could get out was the TH 1997. 1999. I believed it to be the day of the park closing. It showed there was a one man that climbed over the railing of the jungle. The security feed began to fast forward and stop after 10 seconds of fast forwarding. What I saw next, I couldn't believe my own mind. All the people in all of the feeds covered their ears and bent over in agony. The only place that weren't were employees who started to act ecstatic. I couldn't understand why. I couldn't understand why. If everyone would accept you and your coworkers being in to act like that, I would panic too. They tried things from shaking the people to hitting them. Nothing got them to respond. One of the employees stood up, shouted at somebody at the other employees, and started to run away with them, as if away from something. I soon realized that there was a black mist rolling over the island visitors at a surprising rate. It didn't even seem like mist, just a black mass that consumed the camera's view. I stopped the security feed and backed away to show the TV. Then, just in a soft voice spoke behind. Hello. The camera swerves around to see Snow White staring blankly into the camera. Have you met Nick yet? She undergoes a gruesome transformation. Her eye sockets turn into a dark black, and veins around her eyes splintering out from the center. Her eyes turn white, and she violently cocked her head to the side without a crunch. Her jaw dropped and almost touched her shoulder as she let out her sound like a scream. It was so loud it distorted the audio. She put her arm straight out in front of her and lunged to the camera before it cut again. I was wondering through what happened appeared to be a plaza sword again. A sort of place. Every once in a while, I appeared into one of the displays or snack bars. Every time I would find another pentagram burned into it and grounded aside. My silence worried me. Whispering became audible, but it was multiple voices. My footsteps became paired with another, and so on. My walk became a brisk jog, and I stopped checking in the displays. I was tempted to stop the video, but I gathered my courage and pressed on. I abruptly stopped in place, while the whispering and footsteps grew louder. I quick turned to find nothing. While the whispering footsteps stopped, I let out a pained sigh of relief, or at least that was what it sounded like. I turned back around to be greeted by a Mickey Mouse. He said, "Have you met Nick yet?" Mickey began to violently shake, after which his eyes exploded, sending arrows and blood spewing out of his eye sockets. I heard a scream from an unknown voice. Then halfway through the explosion, the video cuts again. It was a lighter out. Blood was splattering on the camera, but only a little bit. I was sobbing again, but I was holding the camera and walking through the woods. The camera jerked forward and I almost dropped it. The camera pointed down to the ground, where an arm was sticking out of the ground, grabbed my ankle. I pulled away and pulled the rest of the body that belonged to the arm out with it. It was a sickly version of Mowgli, the protagonist from the Jungle Book. He was gray and strangely, had more contrast than the rest of the shot. His hair had fallen out, leaving a couple of dangling strands. I started to scream for help. I dropped my camera, showing multiple Mowglis climbing out of trees. They were all barking and yelling. My foot had just escaped in the camera's view of all of the Mowglis pounced onto me. Also escaping the camera's view. After that, it got quiet. The camera sat there for roughly 30 seconds. Re-entering view, I stood up and picked up the camera. I walked through the jungle for a while until I got to a cliff. I had to jump over the railing to get to it. I put the camera down and walked towards the edge of the cliff, and I leaned over the edge and fell. I'm done. I'm done asking questions. I'm done being curious. I'm done looking for answers. I'm done. I refuse to and try to analyze anything I saw on the tape. I refuse to further explore the topic. I'm done with this blog. This will be my last post. I know this might be an anticlimactic ending, but I honestly couldn't care. Feel free to speculate and discuss any theories on this. Just to know that I won't be answering any questions. No, I will not provide the video. I'm not wasting my time digitizing it. The only thing I'll provide is this picture I found in a digital camera that I bought. Goodbye, all. I'm done.
That's a
I'm
creepy
done.
picture. That's a creepy picture, man.
Whew.
That's a creepy
So
picture,
pretty.
man. Jeez.
Looks
Wow.
like Minnie Mouse. It looks like a Minnie Mouse picture.
I know. That's a great. I think that's a great story. I like this one. I think I like
I like
this
this
one.
one better than the first one.
Yes, yes. I agree with you, man. Treasure Island
First
was.
one was great. The second one was fantastic.
Yes, Treasure Island was a good story. It had a lot of reading and it had a lot of good stuff. It's a really interesting story, man. I really like it. So, what do you think about this?
It was fantastic. It was really great story. It was a really great sequel slash follow up to the first abandoned by Disney. Hopefully, we can like get more Disney creepypastas in the future because Disney creepypastas are always great.
Yeah,
My opinion.
very well, great. Yeah, there's all the story and creepypasta.
Well, anyways, guys, hopefully you liked this episode of Creepypastas.
Yeah,
We'll see you all next time. Leave that
yeah.
like button down below. Comment down below what creepypasta we should read next.
Yeah, and subscribe to stay awesome now, man. The Love Kid here and Super.
And we'll see you all next time.
Peace. Hello, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I will see you again later. Adios.